This episode is made possible by the support we get from Fort Collins Kia. If you are in the market for any electric Kia, not only do they never add market adjustments, they will deliver your car to you anywhere in the 48 contiguous states for Out of Spec viewers. More information in the link in this episode's description.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Out of Spec Podcast. I'm Francie. I'm not your host. Actually, today I'm the guest, but I'm so happy to be here, Isaiah. Thank you for having me onto the podcast.
Yes, I'm so glad you're here, Francie. Yes, this video we're going to talk about Springroll, the Vinfast VF8, and really kind of dive deep on, I guess, what's been happening in your world, Francie, in the Vinfast world as well. But just to start off, how have you been doing?
I've been doing well. Thank you for asking. Been keeping up with Out of Spec, of course, but I'm doing well in the Mid-South, staying busy. Rafiki as well. Some people knew about my dog while I talked on the podcast and did Out of Spec videos, so that's great. He just turned 7, and I am finally back driving the Vinfast VF8, and honestly, I couldn't be happier. I love driving electric. I truly do like this car, and I'm really glad I have her back after leaving her out in Colorado in June and just getting her back January 1st. Took a plane out there and drove her all the way back from Denver to Tennessee across the Mississippi River. And it has been good. Yeah, life has been good. What about you? How's been you've been busy on the podcast. I've loved seeing it. I'm sure do you feel like I felt like I always was learning so much, just trying to keep up with everything that was going on, everything EV. I know you've already been in it, but I also don't know what you drive. So tell me a little bit about that.
So I drive an R1T, Rivian R1T.
I did know that, but
I've talked on Twitter, a little banter here and there, but this process has been a good learning experience. The ins and outs and everything, I applaud you for everything you've done. But I love this. I love the social media video side of things, and I love electric cars. So you mix that together, it just is overall awesome. But let's kind of talk a bit about Springroll. So do you know how many miles Springroll has by now? I know Out of Spec team has put some on it, and now you'd had your road trip.
Yes. So the lease, by the way, is a 3-year lease. It started in last January, so it's just now a year, and it's a 30,000 mile lease. And right now, just like a year in, I'm almost at 9,000 miles. So we're trending under what, is allowed if you just do $10,000 miles a year. And just put the last road trip we did from Colorado to Tennessee was about 1,160 miles. So that's as much as was recently put on. But I'm pretty sure when I left her in Colorado, she had more like 5,000 or 6,000. So they put a good bit on. I know Jordan drove Jordan drove Springroll out to Missouri and took her on a long trip too. So she's been seeing the road, which is good. But happy to have her back so that every day I can be driving her.
Yeah. Kind of having the experience of being away from the VinFast for a while, right? Driving it for a few months, taking a break, and then having it now. I guess, what are some of your second impressions of the VF8?
Good question. My second impressions are, so on the way back, I don't know if people remember, on the way to Colorado, got a service update, and software updates as well can only happen at a dealership. They don't do over-the-air software updates. So stopped through Wichita on the way there. I saw them fix some bugs because when I first got the VinFast, definitely glitchy, odd, funny, quirky, some annoying things. And then on the way back again, hit the service center in Wichita again. Great guys over there. They remembered me and everything. But they also did a software update, and even more things seem to be fixed. So what I do like is the responsiveness that I've seen from the company to take like the sensitivities of, it seems like the first iteration of the car in this market, and keep refining it so that it's not so glitchy, that it has some more intuitive things in it so that the user experience is easier and easier. So I think that has gotten better my second time around. Love that. I do still like how it drives, how it looks. One thing that happened in this software update, though, was that I used to have three modes of driving: eco, I think just like standard, and then sport. And in the software update, for all of the eco trims, which is the lower trim, I have a 2023 eco trim. It's also the more efficient trim. For all of those that all had sport mode on it, they took it off because I read online it was like maybe only supposed to be on the plus trims, the higher level trims. So now I don't have that driving mode. I wasn't using it all the time, but it was kind of fun. But it's interesting that they removed that. So they still definitely, I mean, that was an interesting choice. How would you feel if your EV had three driving modes, and after a software update, it had two, and maybe that was like your favorite thing to use?
Right. Yeah, it'd be kind of disappointing. We are a couple years in now for, well, a year and a little, some months into VinFast journey in the US. We still haven't gotten an announcement of NACS. They're one of the few automakers who haven't really committed to that, as well as over-the-air updates. Now, I thought VinFast had, like, I guess, over-the-air, maybe firmware updates. Can you explain what that is like for the VinFast real quick?
Yeah, I actually haven't really. The car's never told me that it's updated something over the air. It might have happened. I know that I spoke with some owners who said that they think it was happening because they would notice things change,
Mhm.
and they're just at home. Personally, maybe it's because I haven't had it. I really haven't seen something like that happen. It's kind of like it's so glitchy, and sometimes things are better, sometimes things are worse. That I'm like, oh, if it's better today, maybe it's just because it's glitching right today. So I haven't had the update there, but having to take the VinFast into a service center to get a software update, which I recommend, but having to take it into the service center is definitely something that is not ideal. Although I'm sure they're putting more and more in all the time, and they're going to get better and better and eventually reach over the air software updates. But that's kind of an inconvenient. And speaking of inconvenient, not being able to use the Tesla supercharger network, which, not all EVs can yet, but I can use the Rivian Adventure Network, which is not as big as the Tesla Supercharger Network, but I did do that. But them not having a plan for that, while it's not necessarily surprising because they're still so fresh, I feel like they're going to keep down a certain path, whatever it is that they're going with their engineering and planning before they hardcore pivot. It does seem like they're just getting their feet wet. So I don't know. It's still kind of like what is the plan? What's going to happen? But I guess they're like, we don't have to make a decision right now, so we're not going to announce anything. But it would be cool to have access to that network, obviously. But here we are right now in the real VinFast world, which is Electrify America, EVgo, Francis Energy, ChargePoint. Those are really the ones that I'm hitting.
And it maxes, right, 120 kilowatts. That's the
Yeah, I've
capacity, right?
seen like maybe 146
Okay.
peak ever, but that is in like warm weather. But this trip that we had definitely was like 120. It's really the peak that you get, and you don't get it for that long. So the charging curve is not, it's not flat.
Right.
Definitely peaks and not for, doesn't hold it for that long. That being said, I'm a patient person, but fast charging is important to a lot of people.
I want to go over some of the bugs and some of your likes and dislikes. I guess we'll maybe go over the likes first, right? Start on a positive note. So I would say Springroll is actually really nice looking car. I love the green. Is You're still loving the green today?
I love how she looks. And I was just thinking today, I mean, she looks kind of cute to me, like the headlights that come into this V shape. It's it's a line, so that's nice, and it has a lot of lines in general. I think the design, the green is beautiful, and people have never seen it before. It's cool to, and I haven't really even seen it that much. I'm still not used to it, so it's nice to drive something that looks so interesting to me. And I've been at stoplights, and people have driven up, and they're waiting at the light next to me, and they're like, rolling down the window, what are you driving? So it's fun. It's a conversation piece. And yeah, so I really like that. I love the ADAS system, really great. There were improvements in the software with the update, it seems, because when we were driving, it didn't shut on and off as it would before at like setting suns and rising sun. Even like on our way to Wichita before the software update, we noticed that. But when after the software update, we noticed it stayed on more consistently. So that was great. I think it's comfortable. I love pet mode. It has camp mode that I haven't used before. I would assume it's very similar. I do like how it drives and looks and feels. And there's some tactile things that I like. It has a screen that's decent, but there are some things that it's just. Oh, and I love the ambient lighting. I've talked about that. So a lot of the design features I actually really enjoy, and I think it drives well. So I'm like pleased on just the basic level. I think a lot of people would be pleased with the VinFast in the way that I am. And while it's not the fastest charging, it's not the worst charging either. And people don't go on road trips all the time, but it's like on average on our trip, I took a lot of stats, Isaiah, as well. So we could always go, I could tell everyone like
Yes.
all the stats of the road trip and stuff, but I don't have to right now. But what I found is, you really just get distracted because you're walking around Target, not necessarily that you have to wait to charge. So that was good. But the maps, the navigation system within the VinFast is Here Maps. I mean, like it gives you the option to look for chargers. It has a little lightning bolt along your route, but it doesn't see them all, and you can't easily navigate there. Don't like how the map looks. Don't like how it functions. The sound system is not the best, but it's not the worst. I'm an audiophile, but I'm not an audio expert or anything. I'm just happy with some good music. And then I have noticed getting back home that there have been like the auto high beams. It says that it's a little error comes up when I first got the VinFast. Y'all, every time I was getting in, there were errors popping up. Isaiah, every time. Like there was something coming up that was an error, and then it would go away and you'd never see that error again, or you'd see it again a week later. And so that kind of led up for a while, but I'm having a few of those pop up. I'm like, I don't actually know if something's wrong or if just there's a glitch. But it's not as much as before, and I've heard other VinFast owners saying that too. So I don't really think there's anything huge that I have to point out right now that I'm like, ugh, that really makes the driving experience poor, except actually one thing. In the ADAS system, to disengage it, so you don't want it to drive smart anymore, you have to hit the brake, and it's a little bit,
Right.
you get a jolt every time. Yeah. So don't love that.
Have you had to do any software resets? I know there was something you mentioned last update that
Yeah.
having to software reset every now and then was common.
No, that seems to have resolved itself where there's not a big enough problem where I'm like, I need you to stop this. I have to turn it off and on.
Awesome. Okay. I guess summarizing your VF8 experience in one word, what would you summarize that up as?
I love asking these questions, and people are always like, oh my God, why did you ask me that? That's so hard. I'm like, I don't know. But if I had to sum up the VinFast VF8 experience in one word, it would be, it's all pretty, okay.
Even one sentence.
It's
one word
yeah,
limits.
it's new. While it's cute, it's new, sometimes challenging, but enjoyable. I would say that is some words to describe it. I'm not. I would recommend with a $250 a month. I saw even like at the end of last year, they had $199 a month, 3-year lease, same kind of terms as the one that we got. I think a lot of people would enjoy it just as much as they would another car, because it gets you from point A to point B, and it's electric, and there's some great features about it. So I do think that people can still take advantage of the leases and have a good time. I've had good experiences with service and everything, and fun driving her around town, easy charging her, no real issues anymore. And I think they're just going to get better. So if you find a deal like that, there are plenty potential EV other options to choose from. But I think with the kind of lease that we have, it is a good option for a good bit of people to just enjoy electric and take advantage of a cool deal and try something very new. Like, we don't know this automaker. It's kind of fun, a little risky. So
Talking
do you
about
feel that way with Rivian? Like it's risky anymore?
not anymore. I would say because I got it, my truck, I mean, more than 2 years after the Rivians have been out. And I think Rivian's been pretty transparent and forward with all of the features that they have. I've never really felt like it's been risky. And I imagine most Rivian owners wouldn't feel that way either. And I think a lot of companies have solidified themselves. Lucid, um, same thing. They're kind of put themselves in a good position. Talking about other companies, now I do want to go to competition, but build quality. I want to talk about that first for a second. You
Oh yeah.
mentioned that build quality was good in the past. We're a year forward now. How is the build quality today? Are things like holding up well?
Yeah, I do hear. I don't know if it's like the cold weather. I hear a little bit of a squeak nowadays. Like sometimes, I don't know if I've noticed a pattern, but generally, like nothing's rattling, nothing's falling apart. The build quality in Colton on Out of Spec Detailing did a build quality examination of the Vinfast, and he found that it was pretty great. I think that's still true. That being said, I mean, it is great build quality. That car is heavy, so that affects even just you trying to close the door. Those doors are heavy. The seats are heavy. It looks great, but it's also less efficient because it's like 1,000 pounds heavier than a 2019 Model Y Performance, which is what we drove it against when we first got it. Not drove it against, drove it side by side with. And that's a lot heavier. And it shows an efficiency, which was about like 2.4 miles per kilowatt hour or higher, maybe in this last road trip, which is not great. And it's also not the worst. So, you're just dealing with what you got. And yeah, it was 2.6 miles per kilowatt hour efficiency this last road trip.
Now, on the topic of competition, let's kind of talk about that. The market has really heated up, I would say, especially in the last 6 months. A lot of good offerings in price ranges that are a lot more appealing than the VF8.
Mhm.
We have the Blazer. Now we have a new Model Y coming out. We have the Ioniq 5 and EV6 with NACS. Blazer, Equinox, EV. I see those around everywhere. Um, how do you feel the VF8 like holds up now compared to some of the competition, new competition that we're seeing?
I feel like it hasn't totally moved in its brand positioning amongst other automakers. I feel like it's still very new. A lot of people have no idea what you're talking about when you talk about a VinFast, and if they do, awesome, nice to meet you. But it also is not super competitive in a lot of the metrics that mean a lot to people: charge speeds, the software, efficiency. So I would think that the brand position, or the market positioning, is still the same. It's not the best option, it might not be the worst, but I think the novelty does benefit it a little bit because a lot of people don't want to. I don't know. They don't want to buy Tesla, and there's all these other options. But what might they be interested in? So it falls in there. But I don't know how their sales have grown. I think there's more on the road than there were before. Let me tell you, I don't think anyone in the tri-state area has one besides me. If they do, awesome. Maybe I've been going to EV meetups and stuff, so maybe we'll see one day. But I really feel like it's still because the automaker is. I mean, I don't know. What do you think? People what do you think it makes people get a VinFast? I found like the novelty of it, wanting to support something new. They like how it looks, or a cheap lease deal, basically.
Yeah, I think cheap lease deal, and then also it just being something unique. From what it sounds like, and to be honest, like I've slowly followed around VinFast, but of course I don't own one, so you know a lot more than me. But what it sounds like, the VF8 is like a good vehicle, a good car, like to serve the purpose from taking you from A to B. It does a good job at that in a cute and unique way. Is that like am I phrasing that
Yeah,
correctly?
yeah, yeah. It's like quirky. It's kind of a quirky little cute thing. I agree. I think so, and I would be interested to see what other people think. So hopefully the playing field is becomes more and more level. There can still be highs and lows in terms of electric offerings, but there's a lot of stigma out there, misconceptions, and then just a couple big names that people know about when it comes to electric that we need to diversify what we offer and make it accessible to people and make it more ubiquitous in our society in general, not just passenger cars, but how else can we go electric to continue to build out the true impression that electric can fit your life. And so I think, of course, what Out of Spec does is important, but also just everyday people talking about it. If they're curious about hybrid, nudging them the electric route. Just kidding. Sometimes people need a hybrid. But yeah, so I don't think that VinFast necessarily, from what I've learned, has really changed that much in terms of what they're offering. But the VF9 is coming out. That might be more exciting for people, or also be like, oh, look, cool. They have two models. That's kind of legit. This isn't. It's just not the bikes and the dealerships that VinFast has these electric bikes, but also two models. And maybe if they keep growing like that, they'll keep growing a kind of standard for their company, and more people will have good things to say about them. We'll have to
Maybe.
see.
Yeah, I need to get someone on here who owns a VF9 because they started deliveries in November.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, so they're probably a good couple out there on the
Yeah.
road. But yeah, the VF8, it's such a quirky car. I imagine, yeah, most people are going to it for the novelty. I've seen so many more on the road, like weirdly, like out of nowhere this past month. I've seen like 4 or 5 actually driving. And then just the other day, right, I was driving and I texted you the picture of the 3 VinFast VF8s I saw on a semi trailer. And I was like, okay, they're kind of going out there, right? I see them on the road, and clearly they're moving the needle for some people. And yeah, I do hope that they continue to grow. And they're doing well in Vietnam in terms of EVs. And so I think how will they as a brand translate that in the United States? I think will be interesting.
It will be very interesting. Yeah, I was just Googling it. I don't know if it's really true, but it says VinFast sold over 900 VF8 electric vehicles in the US in the first quarter of 2024, which was a 743% increase from the same period in 2023. Okay, well, if they keep on that trend, it'll be crazy. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how many people adopt them. It's cool that you're seeing them just naturally in the wild.
Yeah.
The second that I see another one anywhere near where I live, I might follow you. I might follow you to your next destination, figure out who you are.
Pininfarina did a good job designing it. I'd say it doesn't throw you off as an EV. Like I think seeing it in traffic, and you're probably out there, you maybe wouldn't immediately realize it. Because yeah, they blend in almost like a good way, which I think for a lot of people is a good thing. Not everyone wants, right, the crazy Dyson headlights that the Rivian has or the giant light bar that the Cybertruck has. They want something subtle that is nice looking, and I think the VF8 fills that really well. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I think as a brand, it. I was talking about this on with Lacey about the Aria,
Oh,
and as a brand, these EV companies have to do a good job selling it more than just a car, but as like a lifestyle. And what is that VF8 lifestyle? I need to
yeah,
see what the VF8
exactly.
lifestyle is.
That's a good question. It'll be interesting to see how they do the lifestyle. It's got a cool modern but kind of classy look. So it'll be interesting to see how they translate it between different cultures as well. Embracing, electric in Vietnam might be different in the US, different in Europe, overseas, anywhere. It'll be, yeah, I haven't seen much marketing from them, honestly.
Yeah, that is so true. You expect to see a lot more from.
It's
I mean, they
just
do
me.
well. I'm on their email list, and every now and then I'll get
Nice.
like a call from VinFast, like, "Hey, do you want to lease a
Oh,
VF8?" I'm like, I don't know, not right now.
You're like,
I think,
maybe actually after this conversation with
honestly,
Francie,
my mom wants a mid-sized SUV. Maybe the Vinfast will be the car for her.
she can give me a call.
I will. I will. If she decides, I will. I'll have her contact you. Something you mentioned in last update was concerns about the AC not functioning properly. Could you elaborate on that? And then also, how is that, I guess, holding up today with the colder winters that we're seeing?
Yeah, so I think there were just some things with the air that were weird. Maybe they were glitchy. Maybe I didn't know the car that well, but I do know that on one road trip, like pet mode just stopped working. It was the dead of summer across middle America, and
Wow.
I had my dog with me. So I instead had to just leave the AC on and just walk away from the car and not lock it, um, because that kept the AC on. But if you locked it, then, it'd shut the car down. So I haven't seen anything like that since getting it back. The seat warmer, the steering wheel warmer, the heat comes on like in the winter. It's so nice. You're going to be warm in that car very quickly. And the AC also works well. So I think that anything that was glitching before, so far so good with me. Can't complain. Keeping me
Awesome.
warm, keeping me cool.
It's doing its job.
Yes.
What would you like to see in the next generation of VF8? Like
Okay.
improvements. Yeah. What are we thinking?
I feel like they could definitely shave hundreds of pounds off of that car and still keep the build quality great. Would love to see. I mean, you might as well go Nax. So probably do that. The heads up display. Oh my gosh, the heads up display is great. You can't, please, Vinfast, please send this to your boss if you see this, Vinfast. Put in the blinkers into the heads up display so that I know when I'm looking at the road, I don't have to look at the screen in the middle of the dashboard, the cluster, to figure out if my blinker's on. Where's it going? Please.
Smart.
And then I think just continue to focus on the software, make it an easy experience, fix the navigation. I don't know what you're doing. It doesn't fit me. And I don't use Apple CarPlay. It does have that option and Android Auto, but it would like just connect to Apple CarPlay so glitchily. Like I'm in my house, it's parked outside, it'll connect. So I was like, I'm not doing Apple CarPlay. Yeah. So I just do Bluetooth, but then it's a little bit laggy with the Bluetooth. So keep focusing on that. It should be as simple as, if you have AirPods, you got an iPhone, you have a MacBook, all the synchronicity between these help it be more synchronous with my lifestyle. And let's see, anything else? Nothing totally comes to mind. I think the focus on the software, the focus on the efficiency, the things that make a great EV, great. And I don't know what I would say about the design. I really like how it is right now. I don't necessarily think that I want that many changes, but I could see them doing some cool stuff because they've already got off to a pretty cool start, in my opinion.
So I hear you have an electric motorcycle. I'm jealous.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. I don't want to make you feel any more jealous, but it's uh, by USA made in Cleveland, Ohio, all US built except for the battery cells are assembled here. But as you all know, we don't really thrive in that industry in the US yet. Who knows in 20 years where we'll be. But amazing. It's called Land Moto, and mine is specifically a district scrambler, which is a pretty cool electric motorcycle. It's got like a 5.5
Wow.
kilowatt hour battery. It can go like 110 miles, over 70 miles per hour. And I love the thing. Yeah, if you scroll down, Isaiah is showing it on his screen. Yeah, you can see that. And we do have I say we because my dad was really excited about this as well. He's the one who even made me come to know Land Energy and Land Moto. So yeah, if you go through the selection, I got the Seafoam Green. I got some bags put in on the back and a rack. Got the biggest battery option, and then I also did uh, the not the street tires, but a little bit more of the off-road tires, which is pretty cool, but it's totally street legal. They actually also have non-street legal options if you want just kind of like a dirt bike kind of thing that's electric. But I went street legal and I've been riding it around, took it to an EV meetup event. Easy, simple to charge. I haven't done like a range test or anything, but it is really fun. I love it.
I didn't even know this existed. I feel like when we talk about electric motorcycles, we'll talk about like Freewire and Zero. Um, but something like this is,
Yeah, I
oh, you should
mean,
have shown me this.
I called and placed the order on the phone with someone there in the office. It was super hands-on, super cool. Even had like a little bit of a issue with the delivery, and they were so responsive and so helpful, and it is great. So got to support them. I think Monroe Live did a tour of their facility, and there's like one guy up there in Cleveland, Ohio, that is welding all of these bodies together for these motorcycles, these bikes. So it's a cool, small, awesome effort. And I also was talking to the guy on the phone when I was placing the order, and there are so many subsidies in our country, globally, for electric, but it doesn't focus. There's not a ton of opportunities for motorcycle companies like this. But I mean, they are all American made, but there's more of a focus on this more macro mobility instead of micro mobility, and helping people find different ways than to drive around using cars. So these cool bikes and ways to have fun. So I'd love to see more investment generally from that, because not only should we invest in more public transport infrastructure, but also the ability to get around where you live in micro instances, scooters, bikes, whatever it is. So it's a cool company. I would recommend everyone to check it out. Give it a
That is
ride.
so cool. Seeing some of these features, removing the battery and then adding another pack if you want.
Yes, you can take the battery out to charge it. But we did get the onboard battery charger as well, which you can remove it too. So, but technically you can carry, I think it's like 80 pounds though, that battery. I'd have to carry it up my stairs, but you could if you wanted to, but I wouldn't recommend charging a battery that big inside of your home. I would probably keep that kind of thing outside for safety. I don't know. I mean, that's just people don't even want motorcycles near places because,
Yeah.
in general, they are scared of fires. Everyone should be very careful. But it's been really fun to have it. I feel zipping around, and it was really cool to take it to an EV event because people hadn't heard about it. That's kind of like the Vinfast. It's like, look at this cool electric thing that I found.
You have some niche EVs. Like honestly, I'm I really want this now. This is
Oh
this
my
is like
gosh.
nuts. How does it sound in terms of I guess alerting other
You
drivers?
can. Oh, okay. So like if I'm sitting there and I'm still in drive, like they've got different modes, like 1, 2, 3, 4. It gets the ability, the power that you get access to changes. It can be like an e-bike at 1, only goes like 15 miles an hour. But so if you're just sitting there, it'll be like after a little bit, after maybe like 10 seconds or something, it'll be like ding to be like, hey, by the way, this is still on. And then otherwise, it's got a horn, but it don't rumble. I ride with some people who definitely have combustion engine, really loud motorcycles, and that's kind of nice. I get to ride with them because it's good that people can hear you, but I do have bright lights. And then you can hear like the whirring of the motors. But otherwise, that thing is pretty quiet, which is also nice. I've been on long motorcycle rides with combustion. I mean, it's a lot of vibration, it's a lot of noise, it's a lot of sound. It's like sitting in a car. It's in an EV versus a combustion. The quiet is there. Now, in terms of safety, there's always you always got to be looking out. But that might be a drawback to some. But it's not like I'm really excited to take this kind of thing on the highway. It's for fun, back roads, stuff like
Right.
that. Yeah,
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was like
of course.
I'm sure yours as well. They're like, oh, I never knew it was something like this. Uh,
Check it
but
out, y'all.
yeah. Try to think of anything else. Do you have anything else you want to share, Francie? We talked all about lights,
Yeah,
features.
I'm I think you've been doing great with the podcast, so I want to say that, and it's been really fun to see what you cover. I do like you said, it's hard work, and I do miss like studying something every day,
Yeah.
like it was. So yeah, I think you've been doing great with it. So thank you for keeping it up, and
You.
of course, yeah. Look forward to see what else you do, and yeah, we'll have an out of spec motoring video that Jordan is going to edit, which is so great because it's like he and I get to hang out, except I'm not really there. I wish I were really there. Love Jordan, miss him, and then Yeah, catch me around. You can follow me, Hey Francie, almost anywhere. But I'm glad to have the VinFast back. I'm glad to have Land Moto. I feel really lucky. I'm still so excited about electric and love that I can talk to people about the realities of EV charging, of battery technologies, of new forms of transportation that are just cool, technologically advanced, curious, fun, pushing the envelope. Things that are happening in our world. So I'm really glad to be back on the podcast to say hey, y'all, and say that everything's good and I'm super electric still.
I'm glad. How's it feel to be on the opposite end of this? You're the one being asked the question.
Yeah, totally. I feel like it's kind of nice because I'm like, oh, I mean, I could. I'm also like, don't ask too many questions. Like this is Isaiah's show, but I am curious about what you're up to too. But it's fun. It's kind of like you get to sit back and have a fun conversation. But it's nice to also interview too, to be like, okay, what can I figure out about this? What do I want to know? You ask good questions, so keep it up.
Thank you so much, Francie. It was awesome having you on. Of course, I'll have all Francie's links in the description. And if you guys have any questions about Springroll, is it okay if they ask them and then I can reach out back to you, maybe see what you say?
Totally. Who knows? Maybe I'll be lurking in the comments.
Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for joining me on this episode, Francie. This is the Out of Spec Podcast, and we will see you guys in the next one.